In this tutorial, we are going to add some health bars to the non-player characters in our game so that we can see how much time they've got left before they die, which is ironic because they are zombies and they're dead already. However, we're going to start off by adding some additional information to our basic game. You can see up at the top of my code here, I build a list of 5 zombies, 5 nPCs, which have an X and Y, a random X and Y coordinate. What I'm going to do to that is I'm going to add a starting health of 5 points. So, I'm doing this, of course, in my Birkdale School Teams. So, if I scroll down here to the PyGame projects, and 9 is where you start to customize your own code. So I'm going to have a look at that. When you start off, it will automatically fork your code from the standard template. To do that with mine, I am going to have to come up here and choose fork. You don't need to do this, it'll happen automatically. Okay, and then I'm going to come to my main program, and I'm just going to tuck this set of files away. I won't need that again. Okay, so at the moment, if I run the program, what should happen is it should create a cop graphic, and it should create 5 zombies, and they will jiggle about in the world. There's no score happening until I move. If I click in this window and then move, when I am interacting with them, I get some points, but they don't seem to suffer at all from me banging into them. So to make the game better, we're going to give them some health and eventually kill them off. So up the top of my code, before I create my NPC list, I'm going to create a maximum zombie health here. So zombie health equals 5. And this is a constant that will be used to see what percentage of their starting health they have left. So it's important then for the NPCs, when I make my list of NPCs here with a for loop, I add in their X and Y coordinates, but I'm now going to add a third piece of information, which is zombie health. Okay, so the first piece of information is going to be monster 0. The second one is monster 1, so that's the X and Y coordinates. And the third one, which we monster 2, is the zombie health. Okay, so what I now want to do is in my draw section, I want to add some code that draws a rectangular bar that will then show that just above the actual zombie itself. So back to my main code, I can see that I have green already defined here, so you may have to add that if you haven't got that sorted. But if you're using this standard template, it should be okay. I'm coming down to after my game logic section, and I can see here, this is the block of code that draws each zombie. So for monster and NPC list, screen.blit the zombie graphic. So this is where I want to add my health bar drawing code. So what I'm going to do is pygame.draw.rect, and a rectangle is going to take a bunch of information. It wants to know where to draw it, so we tell it draw on the screen. It wants to know which color I'm going to draw it in, so I'm going to tell it to draw this in green. And then it wants a rectangle, which consists of an X, a Y, a width, and a height. Now the X and Y, we'll just start out by using the zombie. Sorry, not X and Y, because this is the monster. So it's going to be monster 0 is the X coordinate, and then monster 1 is the Y coordinate. Now the height of it So I'm going to put a comma in here. And the height of it will be, let's just say, 10 pixels. For some reason it's not. So 10 pixels. And then the width of it is going to be depending on how much health it's got left. So let's have a look at what we've said here. We want to take monster 2, which is this personal zombie's health, and then we want to divide it by the full zombie health. So if it's got full and it divides by full, it will come out as 1. And then we're multiplying that by the size of this particular sprite. So it's going to be, oh, and we can see here that I've actually put that, the width first before the height, which is correct for PyGame, of course. So here I'm going to say it is monster 2, so that is this particular zombie's health, divided by zombie health, so that turns it into a fraction or a percentage, and then we multiply that by enemy size. And that scales it up to the size of this particular zombie. Then, and you can see what I've done here is, instead of giving it an absolute height, we might change to have really small sprites or whatever. So I'm saying, let's take the size of the enemy and divide it by 16 to give it a reasonable percentage of the main size. Okay, let's see what this looks like when we run. And I've got a problem that my parentheses didn't match. So let's have a look here. I opened a rectangle here. I've opened a square bracket here, and I accidentally deleted that, so I need to close that after the width. So starting up now, and we can see here that append takes exactly 1 argument and 2 are given. So that is about where I included my zombie health. Yeah. So this comma zombie health should have happened inside the square brackets here, because it's part of a set of information about a single zombie. And then append is using that as a parameter, a set of information to use. So I open a curly bracket here, I put all my information inside square brackets, and then I close my round bracket there. And you can see that, as it turns out, every zombie has got a health bar, and the game runs as it did before. So we're drawing the health bars, but what we're not doing is changing them when the cop collides. So that's what we now need to have a look at. So if I go back to the instructions here. So what we want to do when we are checking for a collision, bumped equals check collide. So I'm checking if I got any score, and I'm adding that on to bump. So I'm going to do a 2-step process. What it lets me do is to say, well, if I did bump into something, then not only did the cop get some score, but the monster should lose some health as part of that. So let's go and have a look at our existing code. So you can see that here I'm doing it all in one block, score equals score plus check collide. So I'm now going to split this into a couple of sections. So I'm going to say that bumped equals, and then I'm going to take all of my check collide code and I'm going to add that to the end there. I'll just stretch this a little bit, we can see that all in one line. So bumped equals the score I get by checking whether I've bumped it or not. It'll either be 0 or it'll be some number. Then I can add that number onto the score, just as I did before. but I've done it in 2 stages now. And the reason it's in 2 stages is I can now say if bumped is greater than 0, then I must have actually had a collision. And I can do something now to the zombies as well as updating the score. So if bumped was greater than 0, then monster 2, so that's the health part of it, that's going to be equal to monster 2, and then I could just subtract 1 life for it, so -1. Okay, but what if when I do that, it runs out of life, its health bar goes to 0? Well, what I want to do is to say if that health goes to 0, then I'm going to remove this monster from the list. Okay, and if I've run out of all of the nPCs, all of the zombies are dead, then there's no point in the cop wandering about in an empty screen, so I'm going to end the game. So I'm saying if monster 2, now notice the double equals for a comparison, if monster 2 double equals 0, actually I could change fractional amount, so I might want to change that to if monster 2 is less than 0. But let's just see how this goes first of all. So if monster 2 equals 0, then it's going to be npc list dot remove, and that's going to take out this monster. So when it's got no health left, remove it from the list. Now, if the length of npc list, if the length of the npc list is now equal to 0, there's no monsters left, so the game's over, so I say done equals true, and notice true is a capital T in its spelling there, and that will go up here to the while not done, done equals true. That will effectively end the game. So, if I run this, what we should see is that as I bump into, sorry, click in here, as I bump into zombies, they lost health, and then eventually the game's over. And it was all a bit quick there, because I've only got 5 lives, and every time I was touching them, while I was touching them, they were losing lives. So maybe I would want to tweak that a little bit. So what I'm going to do here, instead of taking away 1, I'm going to take away minus 0.01. And the problem with taking away fractions is that sometimes they will not quite equal exactly 0. Fractions don't store very well on computers. So I'm going to say if it goes less than 0 health, then they should die and be removed from the game. So I'm going to start moving here, and if I bounce into a zombie, maybe 0.01 was a little bit too low, so we couldn't see much happening. We're going down to 0.1 instead. It'd be nice to maybe set this to a value that we could set up the top of the game to adjust the play. Yep. You can see some of those zombies, their health bars got reduced. This one here's just got a tiny health bar, and then this one's been eaten away at, and then eventually when it's got no health left, it will then disappear from the game. And then the game was over. So it would be very useful at this stage to add in a post-game credit screen that would let us see what the score actually was. And you'll see that we do actually have some information here about how that would be achieved, but I will record that in a different chapter for you to follow at that point.